I have been making videos on Top 10 Wrestling for nearly 8 years, and within this community, I've seen many YouTubers come and go, and boy oh boy, have I seen my fair share of drama. YouTuber versus YouTuber, YouTuber versus WWE wrestlers. Today we're going to be talking about some of the most infamous controversies and dramas that have taken place in the YouTube wrestling community. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'll give you until the count of 3. I hope you beat the count, and let's get into it. On June 24th, 2016, it was announced that the internet darlings were coming to WrestleMania 33 weekend in Orlando, Florida, and if you have no idea what this means, basically Brian Zane from Wrestling with Wregret put together an event titled the Internet Darlings. It would be a wrestling panel talk show where they'd answer fan questions, give predictions about the show, and all that jazz. The initial lineup announced was Brian Zane, Adam Blampied from WhatCulture Wrestling, and Ryan Van Vliet and Kevin Scampoli from The Whole Effin' Show, aka TWFS. The three channels posted their announcement videos about the event, and it was very interesting because all the videos were very different. Brian in his video seemed very excited about the event and enthusiastic, but The Whole Effin' Show announced the event in a completely different way. They obviously promoted the event and all that was going on, but they also pushed their feud that they had against Adam Blampied and WhatCulture, and host Kevin also made a joke in regards to his own domestic abuse charges. He also leaked DMs that Brian had sent him where he asked him to tone down the threats of violence against Adam, which, clearly didn't work. But then the WhatCulture announcement video came out, and there was just no mention of TWFS in the video at all, so clearly something was up very early on, and there seemed to be some miscommunication in regards to TWFS wanting to do the angle with WhatCulture for the event, whereas Brian didn't want to, and Brian explained this in a Reddit AMA in 2017. He stated the following: "When I first started planning Internet Darlings, the original nucleus was intended to be myself, Blampied, and TWFS. Back then it was Scampoli and Ryan Van Vliet together. I knew there was some friction between TWFS and WhatCulture because both sides had said negative things about each other, but I was optimistic that it would work out and that good business sense would prevail. I also knew that Kevin's brand of comedy was designed to shock and offend, and that it might have clashed with mine or Adam's style of humour, but I think that he can be just as funny when he doesn't go there. I thought it could have worked. Kevin had explained to me in DMs that the trash talk he does online and on his show is part of an act, and that he usually doesn't mean anything by it. That said, I still wanted to try and diffuse any tense situations by asking that Kevin tone down the anti-WhatCulture rhetoric for the time being. He told me he would be doing what he was doing, and I allowed it to happen. At the time, I was so excited about the opportunity to run this show that I was willing to say okay to people just to keep things going smoothly. This was my first mistake, because it was my responsibility as event organizer to be firm and assertive in what I wanted out of this show. Kevin was pitching me ideas to have this big Kevin versus Adam storyline with me in the middle, strictly in a kayfabe sense, with a blow-off at the show on the 1st of April. What I should have said from the beginning was, actually, I don't want storylines. I don't want us to be doing characters. I just want a show where we talk about wrestling, and that's it. Thank you very much. Because that's genuinely what I wanted. But instead, I casually left the talk of storylines on the table without immediately shooting them down. Had I been more clear on my expectations, had I said from the beginning I want us all to be civil towards each other or you're not going to be on the show, then we wouldn't have had the problems we did, because then TWFS wouldn't have been part of the show to begin with, and that would have been that. Also, if I had taken more time to prepare the announcement by actually getting all three of us on a call together instead of me being the middleman, we could have potentially worked out any strife before pulling the trigger. I rushed things a little, and I accept that." The statement also went on to say that following the posting of all three of the announcement videos for the event, Brian obviously noticed that WhatCulture did not put TWFS in their video, and he also revealed that he was upset about the fact that Kevin leaked those messages, and revealed that WhatCulture bosses weren't happy with the domestic abuse joke. He goes on to claim that neither him or Adam were upset because of Kevin's threats in the video, but because of separate things. And following this, Brian was forced to kick TWFS off of the show. He continues in the Reddit AMA stating the following: "After announcing that TWFS was no longer part of the show, I was expectedly hit with abuse on social media by fans of that channel. I let my emotions get the best of me and took a shot at TWFS and the joke on Twitter. This was my second mistake, as I had no right to attack a channel for how they do things, when I'm aware that I'm an acquired taste as well. Kevin took offense to my comments and then began his own wave of attacks at me, as well as my family. In the build-up to the event, TWFS and Zayn would have back and forths on social media, TWFS would throw jabs at Zayn in their video, and there was talks of bomb threats being called on the event. WhatCulture also filed a copyright claim against TWFS, which further just fueled the fire, and again, it was all just a mess. But the event did go down anyway, and it seemed like it went pretty well, but none of the three initial parties were innocent in causing all the drama that went down leading up to it, and I think a lot of it, at least at the start, could probably be put down to miscommunication and a lack of experience running events. On April 29, 2015, WhatCulture Wrestling posted a video titled How WWE Should Have Booked the Summer of Punk, a video featuring a new presenter on the channel, Adam Blampied, talking about what he would have done differently with the summer of CM Punk. The video got a good reception, and Adam Blampied would end up becoming the main presenter and the voice of WhatCulture Wrestling. Then, on October 12th of that same year, an episode of Adam vs. Adam would be posted, and this would be the debut of Adam Blampied and the start of what would be many more hosts, presenters, and characters appearing on the channel. Jack the Jobber, King Ross, Sam Driver, Susie Kennedy, Kenny McIntosh, Simon Miller, and more would appear on the channel, and WhatCulture Wrestling would experience huge growth as they would become the top wrestling channel in the community. They were pumping out multiple videos per day with all the different hosts, releasing books, magazines, and merch lines, and even started their own pro wrestling promotion with WhatCulture Pro Wrestling, who booked the likes of Kurt Angle, Cody Rhodes, Rey Mysterio, Drew McIntyre, and more. WhatCulture Wrestling were massive, and throughout all this growth, Adam Blampied was still the guy who people considered to be the main man of WhatCulture Wrestling, and he was one of the most popular creators and personalities in the YouTube wrestling community. However, out of nowhere, on September 19th, 2017, WhatCulture Wrestling announced in a statement that Adam Blampied, Adam Blampied, Jack King, Sam Driver, and Ross Tweddell would all be leaving the channel simultaneously. It was very out of nowhere and quite shocking, but not too long after, the five of them would begin posting teasers on Twitter about their new company and their new channel, Cultaholic. But in the build-up to the channel's launch, Adam Blampied would be embroiled in controversy. Multiple women came out and claimed that Adam had manipulated them and encouraged them to send nudes of themselves to him. Adam Blampied would release a long statement on Twitter apologizing for his actions and condemning his own actions, as well as asking that nobody goes after the women. And as a result, Cultaholic would later announce that Blampied would no longer be a part of the channel. Adam Blampied would release a video on his YouTube channel regarding everything, saying he's a sex addict going through therapy, apologizing for what he's done, and following this, he eventually disappeared from the YouTube wrestling community. It seemed as though we'd never see him in the YouTube wrestling community again, but he would return a few years later doing a Royal Rumble fantasy booking video as a guest on the Wrestle Talk channel, and then it was announced that he would be signed to Wrestle Talk, and he is now a part of the Parts Fun Known channel, a channel that is ran by Wrestle Talk. On the 25th of May 2020, the following clip would get the attention of WWE wrestler Alexa Bliss.
Right? And she does nothing. She does nothing. She's just, I guarantee you, she's one of those women that just lays there and just takes it. Nothing. She does nothing. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being in bed with Alexa Bliss, man, and she performs the same way she does in the ring? Awful. All look and no substance whatsoever. So
that guy there is JD from New York 206, a wrestling YouTuber and podcaster who has gained infamy on YouTube for his opinions on wrestling and the way he conducts himself online. And Alexa Bliss clearly didn't take too kindly to JD's comments, saying the following. Normally, I ignore his ignorance because all he wants is to be recognized by bashing me. But excuse me, sir, how dare you discredit my work in such a disgraceful way? Hashtag, what a class act. JD from New York would respond to this saying the following. Are the pattern, big pro wrestler, plays victim, claims bullying, and all the anti-bully SJWs proceed to bully, who she tweeted about, but please pretend you're anti-bully. You and the show you're performing on is terrible TV. I do what I do for people to laugh and understand that. I regret nothing I say or do. I've had more people come to me telling me that I have helped them through cancer treatments, death of family, marriages being lost, and being an inspiration to them to start their own platform, but you won't hear any of that here. You are a woman of power and do nothing with it to make you, the act, or the division better. You're a selfish individual who doesn't care who succeeds around them, but you and who you like. Instead of an Instagram selfie that will net 100,000 likes, be better at your profession. In closing, thanks for the shout out on Memorial Day. The fact you know who I am and what I do is a thumbs up in my book. Maybe one day I'll say, guys, Alexa Bliss had a great match and is making a difference in the division being better. Until then, no wonder Sasha is better. And oh boy, everything would truly kick off here. Braun Strowman would respond and JD would get into it with Braun Strowman, and then many other wrestlers would come to criticize JD, and he would also continue to respond to those guys too. This escalated to the point where, as JD claims, he was getting death threats, and Alexa Bliss had to tweet out telling people to be kind. JD from New York would issue an apology eventually, and it was left at that.